Hello, everyone. Oops. Hello, everyone. This is Mary Lynn Cardell, a registered dietitian. If for some reason you can't hear me, please send a message to me. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. And today we'll be going through a webinar that will be about an hour long. I did send out a message about having some crackers. We're going to do an eating experience, a sensory eating experience today. But I realized that the email was kind of confusing. So if any of you are able to grab a couple of crackers, something like a Ritz cracker, a graham cracker works really well, club cracker, even a saltine, those work well. And that way it will give us an opportunity to do a sensory eating experience that you can maybe do with your kiddos. And so that's something that we'll do later on throughout the webinar. So I just wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to maybe grab the cracker if you have a chance. I'd grab, 2 or 3 of the crackers if you have a chance to do that. It would be awesome. So thank you so much for joining us. We're trying to figure out, different times of the day, giving you all opportunities to get your continuing education hours at different times of the day. So let us know how you like this time and if this is a time that you feel like is beneficial for you. So that we can kind of start adjusting some of our webinars to meet your guys' needs as much as possible. Today's webinar is sponsored by Midwest Childcare. They have been really great about providing sponsorship for these webinars, and I believe that we will continue to have these webinars through that sponsorship. So shout out to Midwest, and if you all want to give a email to Midwest and letting them know that you appreciate these free certificate programs for them, for yourself. So just as a reminder, the state does require, in order to provide a certificate of attendance, that you are required to attend the entire webinar and also participate in all the surveys and the study, and all the polls and the survey at the end. And that is simply because they don't want people just getting on the computer and not paying attention. So they do require that we verify attendance, that someone was in session the entire time, but also participated in all the polls and the survey at the end. So I appreciate you all joining in and participating with this webinar. So today it's going to be a lot on how you teach your kids about their senses and some strategies and ideas to help with teaching kids about different senses that they have. So we do know that obviously our senses are our primary way of learning, of interacting with the world around us. And so we really want to kind of help kids understand how they can use their senses to manage their health as well as their body. So our first poll is just kind of what are our 5 traditional senses? And I say traditional because we do have a lot of people that feel like kind of that our gut instinct is also a sense that we have, but we don't consider that like a formal sense, but it definitely is one of those things that is we want to make sure people trust their gut instinct also. So I'll give another 10 or 20, 15 seconds just to kind of get the last of us. All right, there's no right or wrong. I'm going to close the this poll then. So hopefully if anyone kind of gets those last minute votes. So the answer is all 5 of them. That's right. So our sense of hearing, sight, taste, touch, smell. And so that's really what we're going to focus on today is how we teach kiddos about all of these different senses. So once again, our touching, seeing, hearing, smelling, and tasting. And that's something that hopefully we can really reinforce. That's the more we reinforce it, the more aware kids are. But what we know is that when kids are much more aware of their senses, they're more mindful, they tend to manage their weight better, they tend to have less stress, they tend to have more awareness. And so we really do know that helping kids at a younger age become more in tune to their senses without just taking them for granted actually has long-term health benefits. Because at this age, that's something that they can, as they get busier and life gets more hectic, they have more things that they have to take kind of in. And when they are really feeling comfortable, then they are able to hear that. So I have someone said they can only hear you in the webinar. Can anyone not see the screen? Let me know if you are having difficulty seeing the screen. It just says, someone says that they can only hear me. So if you guys can't see the screen, please let me know. So we're gonna start with seeing. Obviously you wanna see the screen, so if you can't see the screen, let me know. So we wanna really help kids introduce what their eyes do. So, helping explain that our eyes are one of our senses. And really, depending on your child's ages, it may be just as basic as identifying where their eyes are, identifying what your eyes do. And so we want to kind of take it to that next level of most kiddos are just going to say they can see with their eyes, but we really want to kind of help them understand all the things that our eyes are doing, right? It helps us to cry. It makes us wink. We blink so that we can clean up our eyes and so that we can get moisture into our eyes. But our eyes also help us make decisions. We know what's going on around us based on our eyes. And we know that the more aware an individual is about their surroundings, the less likelihood they are to get in accidents, the more confident they feel in their surroundings. And so really kind of helping their eyes are allowing them to see things so that they can make decisions that are in their best interest. Also, really kind of helping kids understand, the color of our eye makes us unique. We all have unique colors of our eyes. And it also can help them to make it as their identity. Our eye color is part of our identity. It's also possibly part of our heritage. And so really helping them embrace. Sometimes kids, get in that one eye color is better. They want another different eye color. And so really kind of helping them understand all the things that their eyes do for them, but also that their eye color and shape of their eyes, size of their eyes are all things that are genetically and make them part of their heritage and where they come from. So really embracing that everybody's eyes are just slightly different. So talking to kids about what are some things that they see, really helping them recognize. So for example, we do know that for individuals who are more mindful, who are able to see things, they tend to manage their weight better. So for example, when we go into different restaurants, being able to, as an adult, this is just kind of an example of as an adult, but helping kids understand this through this example, is when we walk into a nice restaurant, it's usually a little darker. Oftentimes there's not as many bright windows. There's oftentimes carpet, and the music is playing a little bit more quietly. Versus if we walk into a fast food restaurant, there's often very bright and light. There's usually, a harder floor or surface. It tends to have faster music and brighter lights. And those are all things that are supposed to help us, that idea as a fast food restaurant wants to get you in and out, right? They make it not so comfortable. They make it really bright. It's not as relaxing. Whereas as a nicer restaurant, they want you to enjoy the experience. Oftentimes there's a difference in kind of how the napkins are. In a fast food restaurant, it's oftentimes going to be a paper napkin versus a cloth napkin, and plates versus baby wrappers. And so really trying to help kids see all the different things around them and how those things impact the choices and how they approach things. So talking about different colors, obviously, what do those different colors mean to certain people? What colors, some people, yellows brighten their day, and other people's, different colors may represent something. And so being able to talk about those different colors that we see. What are some things that we look up at close, helping kids understand far and close. So what do you see when you're looking up close? Maybe a book or pictures, the computer screen, puzzle pieces, little cars. And what are some things that you may see far away? Planes and cars, birds, stars, clouds, etc. So by using the senses, we're also helping them understand direction. We're helping them understand depth perception. Our eyes are really our key to depth perception. And so the idea of up close and far away is a key to our depth perception. And so helping kids understand that at a younger age without trying to explain that to them, but helping them recognize it depending on their age. We can start to kind of talking about those depth perception words. So thinking about why, what else our eyes do, it helps to give our brain information so we know what to do. Once again, it's that thing that helps us to make our decisions. It can identify danger. It can identify, whether a car is coming, whether we see an animal coming at us, or it also can see the beauty in the world, seeing flowers or a rainbow. And so, helping them understand that it's, those things like that are danger. That's the benefit of being able to see, seeing beauty. That's the beauty of being able to see. And so really helping them feel, the amazing things that their eyes can do for them. Also helping them understand how to care for their eyes. So what are some things that might hurt our eyes? Talking about the sun, how we want to limit how directly we look at the sun. Sharp objects, talking about, how do we carry a scissors, or how do we use a knife or a fork? And so making sure that we talk about why it's important to protect our eyes, and learning how to carry sharp objects properly, right? And transferring sharp objects properly also helps protect our eyes. I'm talking about how soap and irritants, pepper, chlorine, those types of things may kind of bother our eyes and irritate our eyes. We also know that too much screen time, it can have some long-term detrimental effects on our eyes. And what they found is that, especially with kids using screens at a younger age, that screen time is usually very up close. That the kids more often are having glasses because their depth perception, their ability to see farther has been impaired. They haven't been able to develop that because they're oftentimes in front of screens. And so really kind of the less we use screens, the more we're able to be out in nature, seeing things close up and far away. Actually helps to strengthen our eyes for long-term health. So other things that we do to protect our eyes: not running with sharp objects, using sunglasses or a hat or a visor to protect the sun from our eyes, avoiding putting things in our eyes. Blinking helps to get things, to moisturize our eyes and get things out of our eyes. Crying actually can be beneficial. It's a stress reliever, but also that moisture is beneficial for our eyes. Wearing protective glasses, those are some things that we want to encourage our families, that if their parents or adult around them is mowing the lawn, or using a weed whacker or something, that they have wearing protective glasses, and they have the kids wearing protective glasses. There have been a lot of cases in which an object has been thrown from a weed whacker or a lawnmower and injured someone's eyes. So, the importance of wearing protective glasses in those situations. The benefits of eating lots of fruits and vegetables. We know that those vitamin A fruits and vegetables, things that are orange, red, are very good for our eyes. So tomatoes, oranges, like red and yellow peppers and orange peppers, those types of things, really beneficial for our eyes because it's giving that vitamin A, which helps in our eyesight. Carrots, another one people think about. Getting a good night's sleep, because we know that rest for our eyes is important. And then if there's anything else that I maybe missed and you can think of, talking to your kiddos about that. Most of this is in the handout. So these are some ideas. I wanted to kind of talk to you about this, but these are all some things that you can carry through with your kiddos. It's in the handout section. And so a lot of this is written out in the handout section in a really well done format, it's a format that helps you, kind of a curriculum format that you can utilize. So what we're trying to do is help you give resources that you can bring back to your centers to maximize how you use your center. So look in the handout section. It's a really great handout. Other things, kind of bird watching, discuss other tools that help people to see better, like glasses. You may have some kiddos have glasses, a telescope, magnifying glasses, binoculars. And really when working with those, especially things like most of you may have like little magnifying glasses or even binoculars, we're going to have you make binoculars, but how that makes it easier to see when you use the magnifying glass or the binoculars. So what we're going to, one other idea is have you make binoculars with your kiddos with just the two toilet paper rolls. And so you want to tape the two toilet paper rolls together to make it look like it's binoculars. And then taking the kids outside for bird watching or seeing what they can see. The beauty of this is when we use the little binoculars made out of the toilet paper rolls, we actually do see more clearly. And the reason is because our eyes are able to focus. Thinking about, we are taking in a lot of information all the time. And so what the binoculars do, and they're even the toilet paper rolls, even though they don't have any magnification, but what it does is it takes out all that other stimulus that we're taking in from the world around us. And so it actually helps to focus. So if you have little ones who are maybe have some ADHD qualities, have a harder time staying focused, the binoculars idea really works well because it takes out some of that stimulus and helps them to stay focused. They can even use those inside if you want to try and see if that helps to really calm down some of those kids who get maybe overstimulated, because it allows them to narrow in their focus so there's not so much overwhelming messages getting told to their brain. So I think this is a really easy one, for you to have, if kids seem to be kind of anxious, having everybody kind of make their own binoculars and then have their names on them. And that might be something that you kind of pull out, to help settle the kids down or to help them to focus on different things within your center. So that's just something to kind of take. It doesn't have to be just an outside activity. It's something that we do know helps in decreasing overall stimulation. So another poll, how do we teach kids ideas to teach kids how to protect their eyes? Give you another like 30 seconds, 30 seconds to kind of. All right. So what are ways that we can teach kids to protect their eyes? Proper way to use sharp objects, making sure that they don't walk or run, run with sharp objects, that they hold them so that the sharp object is pointing down. So we know that is one way. Wearing sunglasses to protect our eyes, that sun exposure over time can cause damage to our eyes. So making sure that we're wearing sunglasses, getting adequate sleep is really important. We know that sleep helps our brain to function, and that also helps us to rest our eyes. Eating fruits and vegetables, especially those healthy fruits and vegetables that have vitamin A, which are your reds and orange and yellow fruits and vegetables that can help in getting that vitamin A, which helps us adjust to light and dark. So those are all beneficial things. So we're going to go into taste now. This is, I talked earlier about having a couple crackers with you. And so we're going to do a tasting exercise. So if you have a chance to grab a couple of crackers, I think the Ritz crackers, club crackers, graham crackers work really well. If not, like just a regular saltine cracker would work well. So that's something that we're going to do a little tasting exercise. So what we want to do is, thinking about different taste, but also what other things our mouth does for us. And so talking about, obviously we talk from our mouth. That's how we communicate. It's humans' main form of communication is talking. Chewing, tasting our food, laughing, asking questions, yelling, calling for help, expressing what you think, really just kind of helping kids think about all the things that they do with their mouth. Taste is a way that our body can tell if something might be good or bad or even dangerous. So it helps us to be able the ability to taste, helps us to survive. If the food doesn't taste good, we might not be motivated to eat it. So it might be a way for us to decrease intake of foods that are potentially putting us at risk. We want to also teach kids about all the things that their tongue can do, and that's part of the tasting experience, right? Taste is part of smelling. A lot of our taste actually comes from that smelling. It comes from actually that tongue, the mouth feel, all those things that contribute to how we feel that we describe the taste of food. And so asking kids to stick out their tongue and ask, what does our tongue do? And most people don't recognize that our tongue is actually the main way that we prevent choking. It helps push our food around. It helps in aiding our swallow. And so that tongue is a strong muscle that allows our food to go down the right way so that we don't choke. Our tongue also has thousands of little bumps that are called taste buds. And each person has their own taste anatomy. And our taste anatomy is actually genetic. That's why certain families may like certain foods. And oftentimes that preference for certain foods comes because of our taste anatomy. Some people like a bitter food. Some people like sour food more. Some people like sweet, salty. And a lot of that is based on our taste anatomy, which is oftentimes a genetic. Well, it is genetic, but and that's why we often see certain flavors in certain families that they like. And so really helping kids understand that their tongue is unique to them, that their flavors that they taste, that we all have these same flavors, but some people may taste different things than other people, or more intensely or more strongly than other people. This is something that they're looking at as far as are some certain individuals with genetic components maybe at more at risk for not having as much taste anatomy, and so do they need to eat more in order to get that satisfaction and pleasure from our food, because we do know that food provides satisfaction and pleasure. And so that's some research that they're looking into is maybe that our predisposition to different taste anatomy makes us want to eat more because we don't really get as much flavor and taste out of the food that we're eating. So those are just some things that are kind of on the horizon that they're evaluating as they learn more about what we call taste anatomy. So when we think about our taste, ask kids how they taste, right? Ask why we taste, because we want food to be pleasurable, but we also get different messages to our brain from these different flavors that we have. And so finding out what kinds of flavors they may like more. Some people really, people who like coffee like a bitter flavor. Those individuals who like coffee, thinking that you as an adult, who really like the taste of coffee, not coffee with like sweeteners in it, but the taste of coffee, tend to like more bitter things. They tend to either not have as much intense bitter flavor, so the bitter doesn't bother them as much. They're more likely to eat things like kale and broccoli and cauliflower, foods that are considered more bitter. Certain individuals who have high sensitivity to bitter may not like coffee, but they also may not like some of those kind of bitter foods, which are like broccoli, cauliflower, foods like that. So those individuals may do better with roasted vegetables, because things like a roasted cauliflower, roasted broccoli, roasted kale, those aren't going to be as bitter, because the roasting caramelizes that sugar and makes it a little bit sweeter. And so that's why we want to really explore different ways of cooking and having kids try lots of different foods, prepared in a lot of different ways, because that cooking process actually does make some of those foods less bitter, less, kind of sour, those types of things. And so really working with kiddos and finding out if they like different flavors and different ways that things are cooked. So talking about what's nice about things that we can do with our mouth or our tongues. Being able to communicate, being able to kiss those people who we love, being able to taste the foods that we like. And so recognizing that there's lots of different things that our mouth can do for us, but taste is one of those things that most people think about. So thinking about what bad or dangerous things we can taste with our mouth, that our mouth can warn us or our tongue can warn us about. If foods are rotten, right? We can't always taste rotten foods, right? But that's something that if something doesn't taste right, that could be possibly rotten. If something's too hot or too cold, if something is really bitter or spicy, and if there's other things, maybe some things for me, when I have pineapple, a lot of pineapple makes my tongue kind of swell a little bit. It also is something to think about when people have allergies and food allergies. If they oftentimes will say that their tongue feels funny or different or like little cuts on it. And so that's something, if kids are telling you that's something that you might want to pass on to your parents. I would pass on along to your parents so that they can talk to their doctor to see if maybe that's a potential allergen that the child is reacting to. Ask, kids, had they ever noticed that they can't taste? Like for me, after COVID, I could not taste, I could not smell, I still can't taste or smell like I used to. And so that's something that has not all the way come back, but when it was during COVID, I couldn't taste or smell anything when I had COVID. When we're cold or have a cold or we're sick, if our nose is really stuffed up, we can't taste because a lot of our taste comes actually from smell. And so how that impacts, that when we can't smell, when we plug our nose, it's a totally different. If we have kids, plug your nose or you plug your nose, things taste very different. They don't have the same flavor. And so talking about how that nose and that smell actually impacts our ability to taste food. Being able to recognize that hot or that cold, that temperature changes, is also I don't think I put it on here, but that creaminess, the mouth feel. We do know that when people have foods that like ice cream, right, that mouth feel gives a high satisfaction. And so being able to recognize how that feels on our tongue and our mouth is very pleasurable. Let children know that they should never taste something or put small objects in their mouth if they're not sure if it's safe to eat. This is particularly true when kids, some of those poisonous berries that they may see outside. And so really helping kids understand that we don't taste things if we don't know where they came from, if we don't know what they are. And we don't put little things in our mouth. But those poisonous berries are something that we really want to help kids understand that we don't want to just put anything in our mouth. We want to make sure that an adult knows what we're putting in our mouth. Other things that are, may look like food or drink but are dangerous are things like cleaning supplies, cough syrup, cough drops, and laundry pods. We know that there was a big, problem with laundry pods and those dishwasher pods. For a while. They were trying to figure out how to make sure kiddos didn't take those. And so really making sure that you're protecting, your kiddos by having those put in a safe place that they cannot reach. So thinking about, the taste that we have: salty, sweet, sour, savory, and bitter. So those are what we call our main flavors, our main taste. So our taste anatomy has either for salty, sweet, sour, savory, and bitter. And so what I like to do is do tasting exercises. It really helps kids as well as adults recognize the different flavors. But what we do know is because our eyes are taking in so much information, that when we have our eyes open, food tastes really different than when we have our eyes closed. So this is kind of a fun thing to do with kids, do it with yourself, and is recognize you can either put blindfolds on if kids feel comfortable with that, if they feel like they want to have a blindfold, or just have them close their eyes, whatever they feel most comfortable with. But really recognizing how food tastes different when we have our eyes closed. And the reason is that when we have our eyes open, our brain is taking in all this information, and we don't really recognize all the information it's taking in. But that information is trying to keep our brain safe and functioning. And as we close our eyes, it takes that one sense away, our eyesight, and it helps us to really focus on being able to taste more. And so this is one thing we do know when individuals, just for weight management, we do know that when people kind of close their eyes and actually taste their food and are much more aware of how their food tastes, they tend to manage their weight better than when people who aren't aware of their distaste. And so we do know that helping kids at a young age, we don't want to talk about weight loss and weight management with kids, but we do want to talk about is mindfulness and self-awareness so that they can carry on long-time healthy habits. And so using these little exercises is, what does it taste when we're closing our eyes? What does it taste like when our eyes are open? It's really pretty dramatic for a lot of people. And so helping kids recognize that. So, maybe starting with salty, recognize the salty, the sweet, the savory, the bitter. And then kind of talking to kids, what taste do they like? Some people really love sour, other people don't. Some people really love bitter, other people don't. And so really kind of helping them know that that's a unique thing, that they can be, unique to them, that everybody doesn't like the same types of foods, and that's okay, but we only know by trying different foods what we like. And some foods we may like better, but that doesn't mean, and some foods we may not like as much, but we also know that there may be benefits of all those different types of foods. Also, as we change, our tastes change, obviously, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. And so as we age, our bitter isn't as intense, our sour isn't as intense. And then as we age and get older, that sweet really is increased, that people really, because their other tastes are a little bit more muted. And so that sweet, a lot of older people really like that sweet. And so just kind of recognizing that our taste anatomy, is unique to us, but it does change a little over time. So I'm going to talk about kind of examples of each flavor, and this once again is in the handout. So it gives you some things to, kind of help. So, having some salty foods, things like, salted pretzels, salted olives, saltines. Some things like sweet, like clementines or berries or bananas. Sour, like lemons and limes. Plain yogurt, pickles, grapefruit. Bitter, spinach, cabbage. Unsweetened dark chocolate, Brussels sprouts, those types of things, and savory, which is called umami, things like a Ritz cracker or hummus that has a kind of savory flavor. This is another idea, doing like a fruit sensory bin, and really this can have multi different purposes, and one is you could have them taste these foods, identify different kinds of sweet, sour, if there's anything that's bitter, but also this helps that visual, right? The colors are obviously very visual, seeing the difference between what a fruit looks like whole versus the flesh inside, halved, the skin, and then the flesh, the difference between the skin and the flesh. And so that kind of, you can do multiple little thing, you know, kind of assignments or little educational with all those different types of sensory bins. You know, you could just do, hey, we're just going to try different foods, but I think that the more we can do, add the visual as well as the flavor, taste, and the texture. You know, there's those, there's gonna be a lot of different textures in these different fruits. It's the more sensory we engage, the more kids are likely to learn and retain that information. So right now we're going to do a little eating experience. So hopefully you guys have a cracker with you. And so what I'm going to do is I want you to, you know, what I usually do with my clients is kind of act like, you know, we're from Mars. We've never seen a cracker. We don't know what we're having. So we don't want, you know, tell what they're having, because we do know that anticipation or excitement about a certain food actually can determine how we actually taste the food. So we want to help kind of neutralize that. And so just kind of describing what the shape of your, you know, cracker is. If it's round, if it's square, if it's rectangle, just describe this, you know, helping describe, because that also helps kids with shape, size, and so those words that increasing that vocabulary. So talking about what shape the food is, what shape the cracker is. And then what I want you to do is I want you to close your eyes and I want you to smell that cracker. And I want you to identify what flavors you smell in that cracker. So if you have a graham cracker, you may smell honey or vanilla. If you have like a saltine, you may smell like a buttery flavor. If you have a saltine, you may smell like a salty, weedy flavor. And so really kind of recognizing that. And then I want you to smell it with your eyes open and see if you see a difference with having a smell with your eyes open versus smell with your eyes closed. For most people, there is a slight difference. The smell is a little bit more intense when our eyes are closed than they are when it's open. So, so next thing I would like you to do is I'd like you to just take a bite of your cracker, and I want you to leave it on your tongue, and I want you to focus on the saltiness of that cracker. So, you know, just focus on the saltiness, but moving it around your tongue, because our tongue is where the taste buds are. What a lot of us do is we chew and swallow, chew and swallow. Our tongue is where our taste buds. So really kind of helping kids recognize as we move it around our tongue, our food around our tongue, we're gonna get those different flavors at different parts of our tongue based on our tongue anatomy. And so really kind of focusing on that salty, moving it around our tongue, and then when you feel comfortable, you can swallow it. So if your eyes were open last time, I want you to do that same thing with your eyes closed. Really recognizing that difference. When you taste that with your eyes closed, it's a totally different, more intense flavor taste that we get. And so thinking about that saltiness with your eyes closed or open, whatever the opposite of what you did before. The next thing I want you to do is take a bite of that cracker and really focus on the sweetness, the sugar, the sweet flavor. And moving it around your tongue and really focusing on that sweetness of that graham cracker or that cracker, whatever you have. Moving it around your tongue. And the longer it stays on your tongue, for most people, it gets a little bit sweeter the longer we stays on our tongue. And that's because the cracker, the carbohydrates in the cracker start to break down into sugar naturally in our mouth from the enzyme that's in our mouth. And so as it stays on your tongue longer, it should be getting sweeter. And so that's kind of a fun little experience for kids to see. Taking a regular unsalted cracker or graham cracker and leaving it on their tongue longer, it gets sweeter. And understanding it's because our saliva has an enzyme called amylase that breaks down that carbohydrate. Maybe a little high level for a lot of kids, but it's just something for them to be aware of. Next thing I want you to do is really taste that bitter. So take another bite, moving around your tongue, tasting that bitter. And our bitter is usually from baking soda, baking powder, and so buttermilk, something like that. So most of us don't really taste that unless it's extreme bitter. But in this situation, we can really zone in on that bitter flavor that is going to be from a baking soda, baking powder, buttermilk, something like that. So as it moves through your tongue. Then we want to take another bite and really kind of focus either on that sourness, which is also coming from maybe a baking soda, baking powder, or buttermilk. And then the next bite would be umami, which is that savory flavor. So kind of a buttery flavor, that savory, kind of not sweet, not spicy, kind of a mild underlying kind of, more intense savory flavor. We see this a little bit more if you have like a club cracker or a Ritz cracker, but kind of get that savory flavor. And then the other thing we want to do, so whenever you guys kind of moving through this, is just taking a bite of your cracker and chewing it on your teeth. When we're just chewing it on our teeth, we're breaking down the cracker, but we're not getting a lot of flavor. And so really kind of recognizing how we want to move that cracker around our tongue in order to have those taste buds getting that flavor, because our teeth don't have taste buds. We don't taste anything from our teeth. We get the flavor from moving it around our mouth. And so, kids, if they're eating really fast, they tend to just chew and swallow, just as adults do. We tend to chew and swallow. We don't really take in the flavors and the experience of the food. And we do know that when people actually taste their food, that they tend to manage their weight better. They tend to manage long-term health better. And so really kind of helping them at a young age recognize the beauty of how food can taste if we actually take the time to move it around our tongue and to explore that. So that's something that is fun. I use that oftentimes with my clients. It's something that you can use maybe with the kiddos, because we really want to help kids recognize food in a positive way, not a kind of a negative way. We want to try to encourage that positive relationship with food. Other things to think about is our food taste. It really does taste different. So this is another thing that you can do. When we're standing, our food is not as flavorful. And that's because our brain is so busy trying to keep us upright and keep us from falling down, taking in all that spatial awareness, that it can't focus on that flavor as much. When we're sitting, our brain, tends to be able to taste things the most intensely. If we're walking, the same thing. Our brain is trying to keep us upright and not knock into things. So it's not as focused on the flavor. If there's no noise going on, when we're hearing other things, we're less likely to taste food as intensely. And so those fast noises, right? We're high, quick noises, things that are distracting us. Our brain is getting distracted by that. So we're actually not able to kind of take in all those flavors. Driving, we know we have lots of distractions, and so we don't tend to taste our food when we're driving. So not that kiddos are doing that, but just for you as a reminder. So I'm going to give you another poll. And what are the basic main tastes that humans have? So what are the main flavors that we as humans experience? All right. It's a quick one. It's like everybody pretty much knew most of those. So it's all of these. So it's sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and umami is that savory. So we do have that umami, which is that savory flavor. So those are the main tastes that we as humans have. So now we're going to talk about hearing. So ears are obviously, helping kids, recognize where their ears are, but helping us recognize both beautiful sounds and sounds of danger, right? Those are all things that we want to be aware of, right? There's things that we really enjoy listening to, like music or movies, our friends, but there's also things that may not be as pleasant, but help us to know about danger, things like sirens, alarms, cars, adult voices, things that are trying to give us direction or keep us safe. Helping kids explore sounds that they can hear, so just being outside and being quiet and listening to all the different sounds that they can hear. Maybe they hear cars, maybe they hear a plane, maybe they hear birds, maybe they hear a squirrel, maybe they hear bugs. And so kind of, the helping them recognize the different sounds that are out there. Oftentimes we're just running around, we're playing, we're not recognizing. And so having them stop and listen to those different sounds. Think about the different sounds that their body can make, clapping their hands, stomping their feet. Those are all things that they can make different sounds coming from their body. And then when kids cover their ears, asking what happens and why that is. And so helping them recognize all the things where they're getting all those noises from. Helping kids, what is your favorite thing to hear? What is your least favorite thing to hear? And how do we take care of our ears? So something we really want to make sure that they know that not to poke things in their ears, and so really helping them know that. And I think for a lot of people, they use Q-tips, and so really talking, to the parents about kids that use Q-tips, making sure that they know that adults should be doing that for them, that we don't ever put anything in our ears. I know one of my kids had put a little toy when they were a little baby. I guess she was probably 4, in her ears, and so we had to get an emergency room. So it really can happen pretty easily, and so making sure that kids understand that that's dangerous. So these are some ideas to make noise. I'm sure for some of you don't really need any other ideas to make noise, but helping kids recognize the noises around them and how. The thing I like about this is all these are going to make a different sound. I don't know if you've ever heard of Stomp. It's a really amazing show, like a Broadway kind of show that comes through, but they make noise out of all these different kinds of things that aren't instruments, but they're everyday kind of supplies. So what happens if you have a coffee can, a full coffee can, a half full coffee can, an empty coffee can, oatmeal containers? Once again, it's going to have a different sound if it's empty versus it's halfway full versus all the way full. Shoe boxes or buckets, paper cups, paper plates, beans, spoons, bells. And so really kind of recognizing these different sounds and how sounds are changed depending on how you manipulate what the item has in it, or what the item has around it, like the amount of contents in that item. So it's the science kind of helps with that science aspect, helping them understand that the sound changes because of the content of the container. Smelling. We want to kind of think about the important thing our nose does, and what happens if we hold our nose, and how important our nose is for breathing. It's also how important it is for smelling things. It can help recognize danger like fire, and so kind of really recognizing those important things that our nose does. So things, what does that fire smell like? What does smoke smell like? And how is that dangerous? Helping them recognize kind of different things that smell, the toxic chemicals and things like that. How if it's something that makes them smells uncomfortable, they should run and get to an adult, because that might be something that they want to trust those senses and recognize that if something doesn't smell right, that they tell an adult around them. Our noses also help us enjoy the world. So it helps us to smell pretty things or beautiful things or wonderful things like flowers. And so really, some people have their sense of smell, kind of like their taste anatomy can be very genetic and very unique. Like my son can smell a mouse. Like he walked into a room one time and said, "I think there's a dead mouse." He just smelled something was dead. And so, so kind of living in a farm for a while, he knew that smell. And so I couldn't smell it, but he was able to smell that. So some people's sense of smell is really high, and other people don't have as great a sense of smell. And so really kind of helping them, for some people who have a really high sense of smell, they may be more nauseous with certain foods. because that sense of smell really can be overwhelming for them sometimes. And so if kids get, nauseous easily, or they feel a lot of foods that they feel like are too, pungent or something, it could be because they have a very strong sense of smell. So just kind of helping them understand that there's good things and also things that maybe are dangerous that we want to help talk to an adult. We want to take care of our noses, right? We want to put sunscreen on. We want to blow our noses if we need to. We want to avoid putting things in our nose. So this is, I think these are really fun. Kids really like this, is making smelling stations and using various scents and putting them in a jar or a shoebox with a small hole and having them just smell it. You can also put it in like a paper bag with different smells and different scents. So I'll use like a sensory smelling little shoe boxes or little cups or whatever. And I'll just sometimes put cotton balls with different oils. So we may have like a lavender oil, an orange oil, lemon oil, and then just put the different, the oils, the essential oils on the cotton ball and just cover it up and they can smell it. Or for those, they're all, unless they're colored, they may be all the same color. You can just kind of have the kids recognize those different smells. When you're doing something like that, it can be quite overwhelming to do it right in a row. And so you do want them to kind of take a break in between, or else all the smells are going to kind of run, their noses are going to be kind of numb to that. And so really kind of having, focusing on that smell, describing that smell, using words. These are really great exercises to increase vocabulary. And it helps to, when we're stimulating one of our senses, we tend to remember things better. And so that using those essential oils can be very beneficial in memory, but also stimulating our vocabulary. I make an aroma collage that they can take at home, sometimes with those different cotton balls, or if there's something else, if you want to put like what coffee or cocoa, vanilla, a cinnamon stick. So those are really, like a little vanilla bean or cinnamon stick. And using some different things that have those different flavors. So kind of an aroma collage. Other things, flowers, spices are really great. Herbs are really great with this. Like I think herbs are really fun because they're really fragrant. And I think the beauty about using herbs, especially fresh herbs, is that natural oils is where that smell is really going to be intensified. And they're really easy to grow. So when you're using some of these sensory, using fresh spices, they go a long way. They're tactile, but they also have a pretty strong flavor. Sweet desserts, paint, you can add like different essential oils to different paints and have them making a paint collage with different colors of paint, but also each of those different colors are going to have different smells. Different, like when you're cutting an orange or cutting some fruit, helping the kids recognize, oh, do you smell that citrusy smell, using those vocabulary words. That's sweet, does it smell sweet? Helping the kids describe what that smells like, especially fresh cut fruit is really great with that. And then a perfume if you want to, but I really like the fresh cut fruit and the herbs. Those are really easy to do with kiddos, and they're also healthy foods that you can eat. So talking about touch, and so really kind of helping us understand that, the skin's job is to help protect our body. And so it protects our body, but also helps us to feel, and we can feel cold, we can feel hot, we can feel textures, that there's different thicknesses of skin on our body. So thinking about the skin around our eyes may be as thick as a few sheets of paper, and the pads of our feet can be as thick as an eraser. That our skin can vary greatly from person to person, but it's for most adults, it's about 12 to 16% of our body weight, can weigh between 8 and 20 pounds. It's our largest organ of our body. And so that's I just kind of think that's kind of cool information. It helps us to, feel things, help us to interpret the world around us. So if something is soft, right, it may be comforting for us. If something, we can feel warm sunshine. We can feel the cold, we can feel rain. So kind of, when sometimes when it's cold outside, or it's too hot, maybe, and if the kids are kind of whining, you can say, what does that feel like in your skin? Kind of redirect them to just take that information in rather than be reacting to that information, just learning from that information. Recognizing that, if water is hot, we want to, it's dangerous. It can burn us. Skin, too much sun can burn us. Avoiding sharp things. And so really kind of helping figure out how to protect our skin. We may put sunscreen on, we may put a hat on, we may put long sleeves on to protect us from the elements of the weather, and also to making sure that we don't run with sharp objects and that we protect our skin that way. So thinking about, once again, using our senses to help increase our vocabulary. Is something small, hard, soft, smooth, slimy, hot, cold, scratchy. And so there are great ways of helping us increase vocabulary with kiddos. So I'm just going to do a couple real quick ideas. They call it a feeling obstacle course, feeling bags, texture zone. These are great. Putting up throughout your centers, having little either boxes, shoe boxes, or like brown sandwich bags that kids can put their hands into and feel the different textures and describe them. Is a really, it's a nice little fun, easy activity to do for kids, and it takes up a small space. Putting things like sandpaper, stuffed animals, feathers, ice pack, the heat pack, and so they can recognize those different textures as well as temperatures. And then this is a little rhyme. I have this on the little handout for you. And then I'll just do one real quick poll. What is the role of the skin? So all this stuff, most of the stuff that I talked about today is in a handout form for you as a curriculum benefit for you all to take and to use that as an educational experience for your kiddos. And so you can use, multiple lessons out of the handout that I included. So make sure that you download that before you leave the webinar today. So I'm going to show these results real quick. What is the role of our skin? Protect our whole body and allow us to feel and touch. That's the main reason that are protecting of our skin. And so thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate all of you participating in this. Let me know if you like the time. Download that handout to give you some curriculum ideas that you can bring home to and into your center. Gives you some great ideas and resources. Also, in order to get credit for this, I do need to make sure you all participate in the polls as well as the survey. I'm going to end the webinar. As I end the webinar, the survey will pop up. Please just take 30 seconds to a minute, minute or minute and a half or whatever to complete that. And then I hope to see you all soon. Just as a reminder, anybody who is with Midwest Child Care, we do have preschool classes that we're doing now on Thursday mornings. And they've been a really big hit for especially, it gives a whole curriculum for the kiddos. We teach the class and you can participate along with the kiddos. It's a 20-minute class. It's 0.4 licensing hours. It's interactive for your children. So they're at 9, 9:30, and 10 if you're interested. I will send out registration when I send out your certificate. But they've been really well received. Everybody seems to really like them and the kids love them. So please consider joining us for that. Have a good day. I'm going to end the webinar and thank you so much for filling out the survey. Bye-bye.